All right, I want to discuss what makes an Underworlder. So, in Param, you have the Overworld and the Underworld. Overworlders, of course, live up in the Overworld, and Underworlders live below, underground, in the Underworld. It's a completely diverse biome down there, and the sheer differences in body types and physiologies really make both Overworlders and Underworlds very hard to discern who is who. But Underworlders help in the sense that they all follow a very strict guidelines design wise, and I'm going to show you what makes them an Underworlder. So, much like what I did with Maxor, I'm going to show off Kaor's closest confidants. So here we have Takinam, Almar, and Agitos. These are the three that Kaor trusts the most. They are always by his side at his bidding, and they all three of them just have an insanely distinct different type of body plan compared to Maxor's friends where they're all part animal part person. Here we see a lot of demonic imagery and inspirations, a lot of horns, claws, leather wings, and that is a very common trope amongst underworlders. There is a sort of darkness that radiates from their design. They are very aggressive. There's not a single artwork out there, maybe aside from Hearing, who's a very popular underworlder, who has soft looking artwork. Everyone else is aggressive, mean, sharp, or bitter looking. And going back to what the overworld designs were with the part human, part animals, the underworlders have that body plan too. For example, we have Rothar, Perithion, and Vile, all fairly common types of creatures. They are part animal and part human in some ways. They don't have anything that stands out aside from you can just see the evil and aggressiveness in their faces, their body poses, just every bit of the artwork in Underworlders. They scream like, "Hey, I'm a bad guy." And even for the more animalistic creatures, that's the same way. So here we have three that I like: Stricto, Akoa, and Zealed. I do appreciate that they deviate from a humanoid body plan, but you can, just looking at them, you can tell how underworlder they are. A Stricto, you could argue, may look like a Marillion, but Marillions showed up way after Stricto's design was out. But all of them have that level of aggressiveness, that sort of red tinge, the spikes, the sharp edges. Many of them share that common feature, which is something that Overworlders don't have in a sort of homogenous sense. They are very all over the place in their designs, but Underworlders have that sort of aggression that is in every single one of their designs. Because not even just their creature, like animal designs, but also their elemental designs. See, Overworlders have elementals that are there to embody and protect nature, whereas Underworlders have elementals that embody the aggressive and destructiveness of nature, a very uncaring type of elemental. Take Magmon, for example. He pretty much runs the lava pond, and he is a very aggressive and battle-hungry kind of creature. And there you have, on the other end, Vorx, a past Underworlder, who is extremely territorial and just lashes out at anything that gets near him. Not very wise, very reckless things that just seek to destroy whatever is in their way. And so you think, okay, so maybe it's just, all these angry, bitter things that live underground. That's what makes an underworlder. Well, then we have the defectors. So Momark is an overworlder who is a sort of mad scientist type. He loves creating monsters. Staluk up there is one of his creations, a successful creation by his standards. However, Stelgar and Ghoul are failed experiments that broke out of his laboratory and made their way to the underworld seeking sort of refuge from their former creator. And even in Maxor's flavor text there with Ghoul stating that every failure results in increasing the Underworlders' numbers. And so in a sense where Olmar is the scientist guy that works with Kaor, and he appreciates his mad inventions. Maxor's got a scientist guy, but he's not up to snuff with that in creating more enemies than he is creating solutions to the enemies. And so we know about the rivalries between Over and Underworld, but here's an interesting one when it comes to Danians and Underworlders. So, Underworlders share a home with the Danians, essentially. Danians live in Mount Pillar, but it is in the Underworld. They are underground. And so, they are always trying to expand their territory, where the Underworlders are like, hey, this is our turf, back off. And so, Underworlders like Cam and Gareth are famous for hating Danians, and same with Hammerdoom Chantcaller. But different circumstances led to them sort of changing their mind on that. So, you have Cam and Gareth joining up with Danians in order to fight the Marillions during the Marillion invasion. And then earlier than that, you had Hammerdoom Chantcaller infected with the Danian parasites and then assimilated into the hive and becoming a Danian himself. And the reason I have Carrick there in the corner, a little mosquito guy, is because he kind of violates the rules when it comes to designs, though I think it is pretty obvious he does not look like a Danian compared to most Danians, and I think that's why he gets the excuse of being an Underworlder, his own independent sort of insect, rather than being tied to Danians, because his body plan doesn't match theirs, his head shape does not match theirs, and therefore he kind of is an outlier in the design. So I don't think there's ever been a Danian that's defected from the hive, ever. Whereas we've had creatures swapping tribes for Underworlders and Overworlders. But I do not think Carrick is a Danian at all, and I just think that he just happens to be an insectoid that is an Underworlder. So speaking of defectors, I have a tinfoil hat theory with regards to Agitos, Gambrior, and Ilizar. These guys are all reptilian in appearance, and could be argued to be Mepedians. The only problem with that is that these three are the only examples I could find throughout my entire collection of reptilian body plans that match Mepedians. Their colors don't necessarily match. They don't have invisibility, so it's not very clear. And there's no lore stating that they used to be part of the Mepedian tribe. So if that is not the case, then lizards are on the table for being Underworlders as well. And then the final body type you have here is humanoid, and you saw some of this with the Overworlders, but with the Underworlders, their humanoids have very distinct features on them that make them less human. Where, as you look at Bodil, he's just a green bald guy. Where, look at Copond, he's got horns. Look at Brimflame, he's got this chitinous shell on his arms, and he's got 3 eyes. Asdab has the crazy colors and the weird spiky hair. So, even in their humanoid appearances, you can see that theme of aggressiveness, that heat, that orange, those browns. Everything that shows an Underworlder living in the Underworld, breathing in the Underworld, just existing in that sort of dank environment and giving them that dour appearance. And then, to my final point, we have Felfor, who disguised himself as an Underworlder, but was secretly a Marillion the whole time, scheming to open the doors of the deep mines and get his brethren out from being sealed away. So, if you look at his disguised form, you can very much see the very monster-like humanoid body plan, and it matches. Yeah, if you looked at him and I was like, oh yeah, that's totally an Underworlder, I would not have batted an eye, because you have things like Nothalax that have that very oceanic appearance, but they're not Marillion. Whereas in his Marillion form, many more tentacles, much larger. He's still sort of in his disguise in that artwork, so it's not a very good image, but Marillions deviate hard from a humanoid body shape in most cases and embrace a much larger number of tentacles and oceanic appearance. So, at the end of the day, Underworlders are a hodgepodge of all sorts of creatures and body types, because they take in whoever they want to take in. but it is very easy to notice them at a glance when it comes to showing off the art of a creature and knowing what tribe they belong to.